Good morning. This is Philip Noel here with the Mike King Biz studio. My name is Philip again. Strategy meets impact here with a remarkably special guest, Commonwealth attorney Colette McEachin. Thank you for coming.
So good to be here. Good morning.
First and foremost, how's your year starting? It's been a wild start to
It,
2025.
it has been a wild start, but it has started on a good note because crime is down,
Mhm.
community safety and justice reform programs are up, and we are working on creating a family justice center with
Sure.
the YWCA
Mhm.
to roll out later this year. So, regardless of the weather,
Yes.
regardless of the water,
Mhm.
regardless of the current administration federally, the city of Richmond is doing well and moving forward.
Right. In your office does remarkably incredible work. You've actually been a part of this office for about 25, 30
Yes,
years, right?
yes, yes.
What continues to keep you driven to do the work that you're doing?
So the reason I became a lawyer
Mhm.
was to help people. That really is the bottom line, and that um, is not what historically people have seen prosecutors do. Be helpful, right? Our history and the history of any marginalized people or downtrodden people or oppressed people is that the government is bad. The
Mhm.
government is trying to get you. The government will get you, and the importance of me being in this role is to turn that upside down. We are not here to get you. We are here to help you become the best person you
Yeah.
can be. And if that is providing restorative justice, that's what we're going to do.
Mhm.
If that is providing a recovery court, whether it's drug court or if you have a mental health issue, behavioral health
Mhm.
dockets, then we are going to do that. If it is reducing charges or amending charges or getting you together with Professor Dave Coogan's program
Mhm.
at VCU, Write Your Way Out, so that you can write your own story, learn from your story how to avoid the mistakes that you made. And then, if you successfully complete that program at VCU, to have that charge reduced or dismissed, that's what this prosecutor's office is about.
In your office, again, when a lot of people think prosecution, I think courtroom, right?
Hmm.
The important work that's being done in the courtroom. But there's so many other things that your office is doing that maybe people don't see or may not even be aware of. So if you were speaking to someone who may not know the true like responsibilities of your office and the impact that you have on the community, what are some of those aspects of your work?
Well, I would start out with obviously the therapeutic recovery courts.
Mhm.
I'm proud that Richmond was one of the first communities in in the state to have a drug court.
Wow.
Drug courts are now called recovery courts.
Mhm.
That is the um, best way to refer to
Sure.
them. And Richmond has had a recovery court for almost 25, 30 years,
Wow.
almost the entire time I've been here.
Mhm.
So that's really helpful. From the original drug courts that are now recovery courts, we have behavioral health
Right.
dockets for people who have mental health issues. We have, as I said, the YRO program where we connect with VCU and Professor Dave Coogan so that those people who want to write their personal story
Mhm.
about how they got into the situation and how they can get out and what um, being court involved has taught them in a
Really.
good way, they can do that. We have a lot of exit ramps off the highway between arrest and conviction.
Sure.
So a lot of people think that, oh, well, once you're charged by the police, then that's it. You're going to have to live with those charges.
Mhm.
Those are the charges that the Commonwealth is going to go forward on. But we're very concerned about the fact that it is clear now what the impact is of a felony conviction
Yes.
or any conviction.
Mhm.
And so we offer first felony avoidance
Mhm.
so that if you get a charge and we review that file and we see that it is your first felony, we will do everything within our power. And sometimes that's not possible, but
Sure.
we will do everything within our power to amend that charge or reduce that charge or offer you an opportunity to make good to the person who you harmed,
Yeah.
so that maybe it's reduced to a misdemeanor,
Mhm.
maybe it's dismissed.
Surely.
And so there are many, many exit ramps off of that highway, and that's what we're trying to achieve.
And for the individuals who did receive a felony, maybe
Mhm.
did also spend time, obviously in prison, that there's initiatives that are helping them really reacclimate themselves into society. What initiatives maybe have you seen or that you're maybe proud of that have touched that particular situation?
Right. So, just to clarify,
Hmm.
if somebody is convicted of a felony, that does not necessarily mean that you're going to jail or to prison.
Hmm.
So you can have a felony conviction, but have all that time suspended.
Truly.
Um, if in fact you are incarcerated, either pre-trial or post-trial,
Hmm.
then the Richmond City Jail has a number of programs where people can get their GED,
Yeah.
people can get an HVAC license,
Hmm.
people can
Wow.
get their CDL license.
Absolutely.
All of that is available.
Yeah.
And then the Department of Corrections, if you are a convicted felon and actually get transferred
Hmm.
to a state facility,
Right.
have their own set of programs for people, because we all recognize that thankfully most people do not spend their lives in jail.
Absolutely.
And as a society, we have grown to recognize that we need to prepare people who have been incarcerated
Hmm.
to be released to the community and to do good,
Absolutely.
not to recidivate and
Yeah.
return back to incarceration.
And when you're just to segue a little bit here, technology is playing such a major role. One in crime, I think we're seeing things that are done in the digital space for people that are committing crimes, but then technology is also placing a role in how you're going about prosecuting certain things. But sometimes maybe government can be a little bit lags behind the constantly evolving technology. How would you describe Richmond's current standing with how we're able to possibly either utilize technology for prosecution or even just understand how crimes are being committed in the digital space?
So, what I will say first is, on the one hand, social media is great.
Hmm.
And on the other hand, social media is catastrophe. It's both.
Yes.
And just like a knife can be, used to cut food,
Hmm.
it can also be used to cut a person,
Yeah.
right? So
Sure.
it's not the tool,
Yeah.
it's not social media, it's how social media is
Hmm.
used. And what we are seeing both on the law enforcement side with police, who are the ones who do the investigation and
Hmm.
bring their cases to us, what we are seeing when we examine those cases is that there are more and more 13, 14,
Sure.
15,
Wow.
16-year
Yeah.
olds doing really stupid, dangerous things on social media.
Yeah.
And the reason they are doing that is because we all know that most people's brains are
Hmm.
not fully formed
Hmm.
and that you don't have all of your lines of discretion and thought until your mid 20s.
Right.
So
Wow.
that time period between, say, being middle school and you're being in your mid 20s is a really dangerous period for a lot of
Hmm.
people because they are not making well thought decisions.
Surely.
And so social media plays into that. Um, I know that there's a lot. So social media,
Hmm.
the things that people post, the things that people say
Yeah.
online, the beefs that go on between individuals or groups that might have started out between two people
Hmm.
10 or 15 years
Yeah.
ago are now between all of my buddies and all
Hmm.
of your
Big
buddies.
audience.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's like the telephone game. Well, I
Hmm.
heard she said
There you
so and
go.
so. Well, I heard she said. And by the time it gets
Oh my
back
gosh.
around, it's like, that is not what the original person
No.
said at all. But now that's what everyone's upset about.
Yeah.
And so social media just amplifies
Hmm.
sometimes a really bad message that young people are not mature enough
Surely.
to discern.
Yeah.
So
And you are up for re-election
I
this
am
this
looking
cycle.
forward to it.
And of
Yes.
course, everyone knows we had a very long year last year for the presidential election and the other things that were on the ballot this year being somewhat what you would consider an off year
Hmm.
election for some.
Although
Um,
there's always an election year in
Always
Virginia.
there you go. And so primaries in June,
Yes,
right? And
June
then
17.
the general, of course, in November.
Yes,
As you look forward to these next few months of being able to get in front of people, and again, appreciate you coming here on
of
this show
course. Thank
today.
you. Thank you.
What's one of the big messages that you're like, I really want to get this across to be able to show that like I'm that candidate who can really continue this great work that we're seeing.
Yeah, I think what I want the people of Richmond to know, whether you are a citizen or a resident or an immigrant, is that the Commonwealth Attorney's Office is here to provide public safety,
Yes.
to provide criminal justice reform, and to provide accountability.
Hmm.
Those are the three things.
Yeah.
Nothing happens good in a society if no one feels
There
safe.
you go.
And if you don't feel safe in your house because there's domestic
Mhm.
violence and guns and violence in your neighborhood, you bring that into the school. And then the school is not a safe place.
Mhm.
And then when you leave school, you have so much trauma and so much anger built up that gets expended on otherwise innocent people. And so it's just a huge falling of dominoes.
Yeah.
And so, what I want people to know is that I am aware of the root causes and the trauma informed thought that has to go into the
Yeah.
review of every individual case, and nothing is done on a thoughtless manner. It is all
Truly.
with the intention of providing public safety to everybody in the city of
Mhm.
Richmond.
Awesome. Again, here with Colette McEachin, who's running for re-election for Commonwealth Attorney. The, your role is more than just prosecution. It's a lot of leadership there. It's a lot of managing crises. It's a lot of having to answer really tough questions. How would you gauge or really describe just your leadership, either philosophy or style?
this may sound cheesy, but I'm going
Hmm.
to say it
Hmm.
anyway.
Please.
My wonderful mother
Hmm.
is still with us
Yeah.
at 93 years old.
Okay.
And she's actually my plus one now that my husband,
Hmm.
Donald McEachin, has passed. And so I take her to events. And at 93, she still
Yeah.
drives. She lives by herself. She's active in her church. She's a proud AKA,
Hmm.
all of that.
Hmm.
I am a proud Delta Sigma
Okay.
Theta.
Yes.
Um, but I say that to say that every morning when I wake up, I am thinking of how can I make my mother proud?
Got you.
How
Yeah.
can I make my mother proud?
Absolutely.
And she lived through segregated South Carolina. She was
Hmm.
born in 1932, the
Hmm.
year that Franklin Roosevelt became
Okay.
president. So she lived through segregation.
Yeah.
She lived through Jim Crow. She lived through not being able to go to the local swimming pool.
Hmm.
She
Wow.
lived through all of that. And then she brought that knowledge, and my father brought that same lived experience
Hmm.
to our home. And so I take seriously the fact that it is not just me being Commonwealth's attorney
Yes.
for the office.
Right.
It is me being Commonwealth's attorney so that nobody else has to go through what my parents went
Wow.
through.
And for anyone that's listening who would like to be able to follow your campaign or find out more information, where can they find that?
Sure. The campaign website is Colette,
Mhm.
Collette, then the number four,
Yeah,
RVA.
got you.
Colette for RVA. And may I also say that those people who want to go on the City of Richmond
Yes.
website, which is rva.gov,
Mhm.
every agency in the City of Richmond has its own page, and the Commonwealth Attorney's
Yeah.
Office has a page there. And you can see what our office has been doing for the last 4 years and the accomplishments that we have brought to the City of Richmond.
Okay. Amen. One of the things that I found very interesting is that there are certain people in particular or certain roles in comparison to the work that you're doing or vying even for the position that you're currently in who may have a different philosophy of um, speaking publicly about things compared to maybe having a level of discretion to make sure that you're keeping the integrity of maybe an open case in that way, right? So there's that level of wanting to be transparent to the public, but then there's also the realities of certain things you can't say,
Mhm.
right? So how do you go about making that balance there?
Yeah, so that is one of the things that my 25 years, more than 25 years
Mhm.
of experience in the office has given me. Um, it takes time to recognize that there is a balance, like the
Surely.
scales of justice,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And so everyone can't know everything all the time.
absolutely.
That would violate so many
Well,
ethical rules.
yeah.
Um, and courts follow that.
Mhm.
And so for anyone to argue that everything should be out in the public at all
Man.
times, everywhere, is juvenile and
Yeah.
thoughtless. What I do is let people know at the appropriate time this investigation, which my office did not do because that would also be inappropriate,
Sure.
this investigation was conducted. I reviewed the investigation, and this is how I'm proceeding. And that is done on the public record
Mhm.
in a public courtroom so that there are no secrets and
Yeah.
there is nothing hidden from the public.
Truly, and I think what also is important is that in your role, like mental health plays a big part in some of these things, especially even in the preventive space, possibly, right? Can
Yes.
you speak of what you have learned just in your time, even within, let's say, this current term, of like the importance of the role of like really focusing on how mental health can come into play regarding helping prevent certain things or being able to aid people in the future?
Right. So it starts with those people who first come in contact
Hmm.
with police officers generally. And a lot of times I know that the community is concerned that their loved one is having a mental health
Yes.
crisis and they are reluctant to call the police
Wow.
or fearful of what might happen. And obviously, we've all read and heard and can,
Of course.
research on the internet when that goes wrong.
Yes.
Um, but most of the time, it doesn't.
Hmm.
And the reason it doesn't is because the police are also being trained on
Yeah.
crisis management. They are also working with Richmond Behavioral Health Authority
Hmm.
to have someone who is not a uniformed law enforcement
Really.
officer respond with them. So
Yeah.
there's a whole crisis team
Yeah.
that does that. But in addition, once someone is before the courts,
Hmm.
then there are ways for us to have them evaluated either in the jail or outside
Hmm.
or at Central State Hospital, depending on how serious their mental health issue is.
Yeah.
And so I want people to know that the criminal justice system is very cognizant of the
Hmm.
fact that a lot of criminogenic behavior is in fact caused by someone having some
Right.
type of mental health crisis or
Hmm.
break, and that to the extent that we can get them back on their meds,
Yeah.
get them willing to recognize that that is the problem and show that they are willing to take their meds, get family support for them, because a lot of times those people have kind of burned their bridges with
True.
family.
Wow.
And so we try to get the family involved to add support to those people so that they can be released and we know that they are not going to come back in contact
Wow.
with anyone in a dangerous manner.
Yeah. When you're looking at what makes Richmond unique, right? So last year, Richmond was, deemed the greatest place to visit, right? And things like that. There has to be a required level of like, you have to feel safe to even want to, let's say, visit a place like or
Yes.
do business in a place, right?
Yes.
And again, a lot of incredible statistics have been shown regarding the impact that the office has had in your term. Um, what are just some of those highlight initiatives that like this decision has played a role into why we're seeing certain numbers reduced
Hmm.
right now?
So one of the things that I wanted to do when I became elected first in 2019 and then won the general election
Hmm.
in 2020 um, was to make sure that people knew who I was personally,
Okay.
that there wasn't a wall between me
Yeah.
and my constituents. And so one of the things that I think has been effective is that I am out in the community.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I am at the Gilpin Court Tenant Association meeting and Tenant Council meeting. I am at the district meetings of each of the city council
Hmm.
people. I am at the festival in Second Street to celebrate
Yep.
Mama J's
Hmm.
restaurant
Yep.
success this summer. I am at the Two Street Festival.
Hmm.
I am at
Black
Daisy
History
Days,
Museum
Black
recently.
History
Yeah.
Museum.
Hmm.
Uh, it is important for
Yeah.
people to know that I'm approachable
Hmm.
and that my office is approachable
Yeah.
and that we are part of the community
Hmm.
and we want to be part of the community. So I think when people see that and know that, they feel more comfortable staying with us when we have a case
Yeah.
that needs to be pursued and they are willing to continue to talk with the attorneys in the office
Hmm.
and help get justice for whoever that victim is who was harmed.
That is awesome. I know we only have like about 3-4 minutes left here. Again, how can people follow your campaign?
Yeah, once again, very excited about the campaign, looking forward to continuing the restorative justice work that
Hmm.
we have done with the criminal justice, community justice reform unit.
Yeah.
And anybody who wants to join us in making Richmond a better, safer city
Yeah.
can find that information at Colette, the number 4 RVA,
Yeah.
Colette 4 RVA, or on the city website, rva.gov, and then /Commonwealth's attorney.
That's amazing. One of the things I really want to help close this is speaking about our youth and how important keeping our youth safe, keeping our youth informed, engaged plays. One, just really want to open it up to you and say, like, what have you even learned from our youth here in the city that's really helped like fuel the work that you're doing, or even the creativity of how you're approaching certain
Mhm.
challenges?
So you may recall that sometime at the end of last year,
Hmm.
we had a summit conversation with the community, conversations with the Commonwealth community meeting,
Mhm.
and it was about public safety in schools.
Yes.
And so throughout my 4 years, I've had 6 or 7 of these conversations with the Commonwealth so that people could come and talk to me about how they feel
Truly.
about things. And so the focus on that was because we had recently had a number of school
Mhm.
shootings beforehand. And, luckily that has not happened in Richmond,
Mhm.
but um, we are preparing for that. And so it's important for me to talk with the youth, to go in the spaces where they're
Yeah.
comfortable, whether it's urban hang suite
Surely.
or on the street
Mhm.
or at their school, and find out from them what their concerns are. And they want to be safe.
Mhm.
They are afraid not only of some um, adult coming to their
Right.
school who's dissatisfied, but sometimes of their own student body, of
Mhm.
their own fellow students. And so I know that Richmond Public Schools, Jason Cameras, Angela Jones, all of those people are focused on making the schools as safe as possible. And I am focused on making sure that if you are a victim of crime as a juvenile,
Right.
that you will be protected and supported by our office. And if you are a defendant, we will be protective of your constitutional
Surely.
rights and make sure that you get the rehabilitative treatment that you need as a juvenile.
I love it. And again, for individuals who may not be following every step of the way of this campaign, just want to give you an opportunity just to say like, hey, this is why I'm running, and this is what I intend to do with 4 additional years.
With 4 additional years, restorative justice will become an expanded program. Community safety and public safety will continue to show that crime is down, that our justice programs are up, and that we are holding people accountable if they commit a crime and harm someone, and we are accountable to the community.
Hmm.
And I recognize that. And I am looking forward to working with the YWCA
Absolutely.
to bring a family justice center into fruition so that women who are the victims of domestic violence
Hmm.
or intimate partner violence have one place where they can go and receive all of the resources that they need
Yeah.
instead of having to take the time and money to travel to different places. That's the next thing on the agenda to achieve.
I love it. And again, thank everyone for listening and watching. We're gonna give you one more opportunity to tell them where they can follow you as well as social media, because I think some people will get information from that as well.
Yeah, sure. So once again, Colette, the number four
Mhm.
for RVA,
Mhm.
and also the city website. I'm on Facebook, Instagram.
Mhm.
I post continuously, and so it's easy to find me. But let me give you my number. If you want to call me,
Yes.
if you actually want to have a person to person conversation with me, not my assistant, not another attorney, feel free to call me at 804 646 4845. 804 646 4845. That goes directly to my desk, and I will pick up the phone and talk to you if you have any questions.
Awesome. And thank you for your service. This has been a journey for you. I see you out in the community, and I know the incredible work that you do. So glad to know that there's someone like yourself in that position. Again, thank you everyone for listening. You will be able to follow me on Instagram at Mr. underscore Noel, LinkedIn at Philip Noel. Thank you, Mike King Biz, for again providing this opportunity for us to be able to come and speak. And we're looking forward to seeing the continued efforts of Madam Colette McEachin here. So thank you, and we'll see you again soon.